Sleeper teams, dark horses, other ridiculous names that you could think of to put into perspective in the world of football. Who are the teams that we haven't mentioned already? We talked about Liverpool, Manchester City, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea. Top 5 teams I think in the Premier League are going to be looking for European places and challenge for the Premier League title. But every year, there's a couple of teams that find their way up there. Swansea had a good season last season. Southampton, unbelievable season considering that they just got raided by Liverpool the season before. So we want to talk about teams who we think can, I would say, make a run at the Premier League this season to have a successful season in their terms. So the first team that I want to bring to light is Stoke. I know what you're thinking. Stoke are Stoke. They play the way they sound. Oh, Stoke. But they get stuck in. They're a hard team to beat at home. And they had a good season last season, finishing in the top 10. And this season, they've added some, I would think, some accurate signings. So they brought in Glenn Johnson. I know he came under a lot of scrutiny at Liverpool, but I think he'll fit in pretty well at Stoke if he sticks to what works with his game, and that is defending first and then utilising his pace and strength to maybe support the attack now and again. But that's not the signing, I think. Afellay, who they signed from Barcelona. Now, I watched him play the Dutch international, who is not a bad player to bring into a team like Stoke, who can try and string some passes together for them in the final third, and they need that creative spark. But we know they're hard to break down. They haven't lost anyone notable from their back line that you think would create gaping holes. I think that they're comfortable at home, especially. I see teams like Arsenal who go to Stoke, who, again, they might not always get points at home, Stoke, but they're a hard team to beat in that area. And I think that with adding some talent like Afellay into their team, they could make a run at trying to get a Europa League spot or trying to get higher up in the table. So I think they're a team to watch. The second one that has to be mentioned, of course, is Tottenham. Now, for the first time in a long while, I haven't seen Tottenham completely bring in a new squad of like 5 or 6 players and then sell 5 or 6 players. They still have Celtic players on, they still Cabal on. They've got rid of some of the dead wood that I don't think needs to be there at Tottenham anymore. But they didn't add as many players as I thought they would, and that's not a bad thing because they have the framework there of great talented players. They have Eriksen, who we know can be on fire at certain points of the game and link up defence to attack like any other midfielder. Class is world class in the Premier League. So you look at Coutinho for Liverpool, you look at Ozil for Arsenal. I think Eriksen can be as good as those guys when it comes to getting the ball in the final third. And who's he got up there? They held on to him. Huge for them, Harry Kane. Many people expected him to move on after his first successful season. But I think with Harry Kane at the helm up top with them, I think that they finally understood how they will play to utilise his talents. Because you've looked at the past, you've had Adebayor in there, you've had many different, you've had Soldado, you've had players who never really fit into Tottenham's way and style of football, and they just brought them in because they were big names. But Harry Kane understands what it means to play for the jersey, and their attacking style suits his gameplay, suits the way he moves, suits his dynamic movement, suits his ability to get the ball off of his feet really quick and bang in outstanding finishes from anywhere in the field. I think he has the ability to score outside and inside the box. You've got Lamela, who's going to be fit in there as well, who is very talented. And I just think that Tottenham not trying to refurbish their full team each season, I think is a good sign. I think that they can keep on to the framework. At the back, Lloris is still one of the best goalkeepers, I think, in the Premier League. So I think that that's crucial that they kept on to him, because I know United were looking at trying to raid him if De Gea happened to move to Real Madrid. So with that being said, Tottenham, there's no way that they cannot challenge for a top 5 spot. We've seen it every year. They've been there and thereabouts. It's just about consistency with them. But as I mentioned, not flooding a bunch of new players into their starting 11, I think will be beneficial for them this season. Now, a couple of teams that I have to mention as well is, I would say I'm a little bit worried for Everton because, again, I haven't seen them be as active despite signing Tom Cleverley. So I think that I might be worried that they might start to fall down, because going from a team that was consistently challenging, hard to beat, I think that I still needed a couple of players to be brought in this season for them to really challenge in the top 10. I'm not saying they're going to be fighting relegation. I just think that it might be a mediocre season for Everton rather than trying to challenge for a potential top 5, top 6 spot like they were a couple of seasons back. So I would have liked to have seen them be a little bit more active in trying to get a creative player to finish it in the final third. Of course, they've got great players in there who will still be able to partner in their attacking movement. Lukaku needs to have a big season. I think he flattered to deceive a little bit last season. They sold on Distan, so I think that they'll get a better defensive partnership in there with Jagielka, who is still going to be the leader at the back. I think Distan was a little off the pace a lot at Everton, and that's why I think Martinez started to see through that towards the end. So I just don't think that they've been as active for them to potentially rival some of the bigger teams that have acquired new signings. Like you see Man United, Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal. I just think that they look more superior than any of the other teams in the top 10 than they have done a few years past. So I think they'll be comfortable in holding down that spot. And I don't think that Everton look like they can rival their close rivals in the same vicinity, Liverpool. So I've already talked about Liverpool briefly in the preview, but I want to mention that people saying that Liverpool can't finish top 5, top 4 is a ridiculous statement, because did you think Liverpool could rival the title that year that they did? Came so close to it. I mean, with a few things, a few certain slips now and again didn't happen, they could have won that league. And yes, they had Suarez. Yes, they had a better framework as a whole, but they've added some players in the season that I think can help push them forward in the Premier League to potentially finish top 5. And I think that's what they've got to look for. I think Benteke was a good signing. Stay tuned to our clip where we talked about the players to watch this season. But to count Liverpool out from getting into top 5 is just counting out the Premier League as a whole, because this is why it is, for me, the most competitive league, because you can't really tell who's going to make up that top 5 spot. So going down to the bottom half of the table, I'm excited to see the newcomers come in, Bournemouth, Norwich and Watford. I'm excited to see, especially Bournemouth, a team that you didn't expect to make this resurgence into the Premier League, a team that you're already rooting for because of the newbies coming in. You want to see how they'll handle it in the big league. And last season they were so impressive for me in the Championship, so I'm excited to see them. Sometimes it's hit and miss. A team that newly comes into the Premier League can either just face destruction straight away and be favourites to be relegated, or like a Swansea coming in, they can just completely defy odds and work their way up to the top end of the table. Swansea, another team. I know Jason will be happy with this, me mentioning them potentially finishing in the top half of the table. It'll be interesting to see. So I'm excited to see those teams battle out in relegation. I think a team that might be a little bit, I might be worried a little bit this season is West Ham, because West Ham last season, when they lost Andy Carroll due to injury, I just felt that they lost that grit that they had when they had a great start to the season and started to really head down south. And I know they replaced Sam Allardyce and they're looking to kind of refurbish their team a little bit more. I think they had a great framework there, but I worry that if they do lose star talent again, that they might suffer, that they might face the wrath of some of the teams who have added in numbers this season. So I don't know if West Ham, for me, have enough to make another great run like they did last season. That run was thankfully enough to keep them from heading into the bottom half of the table, way bottom. I'm talking about the relegation zone. So it'll be interesting to see how they pan out this season. And Newcastle, I got to finish on Newcastle. Come on, it's our favourite fan over there, the true Geordie, would hate us if we didn't mention new managers coming in. We'll talk about that a little bit more and players to watch out for. But they've been active in the transfer market. I generally don't think they can have a worse season than they did last year, leaving it to the last day. A team like Newcastle, who some would say were looking to move back to the way that they used to be in the glory days, but then this season really knocked them back. They just didn't look like they had the grit and determination needed in a Premier League team to make a sustainable challenge at top 10. They just looked diabolical. The players didn't look like they played for the jersey. Obviously, the transition from Alan Pardew out to Calvert in didn't help anyone. But now, when they've got their new manager, Steve McLaren, in, is this going to assist things? I don't know. I like what they're doing in the transfer market. I like that they're getting rid of some of the deadwood. And I think that they, for me, are going to finish mediocre in the middle level of the table. And I think for some fans at Newcastle, that will be a successful season after the panic stations that they faced last year. But that's my overall look at some of the other teams in the Premier League and teams that I think can maybe make that late run into top 5, top 6 position. As I mentioned, Stoke and Tottenham, for me, I'm interested to see how they'll play this season. I'm really interested to see how Stoke will play, because they've been known as this team who are just hard-hitting, get the job done, finishing top 10 last season. I'm excited to see now that they add some flair that they might be interesting. So let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Any other teams that you guys want mentioned in there, make sure to mention it in the comments, and I'll try to interact with you guys as much as I can. I'm only one guy trying to cover all the Premier League, but when it starts up, you better believe we'll be bringing you a lot of coverage. Subscribe to TYT Sport.